Aloha, everybody, and welcome to Security Matters. My name is Jake Brown, and on behalf of CRIs, big thank you to Andrew Lanning for always allowing us on a monthly basis to host Security Matters. And hello to everyone on the airwaves watching this in the other states. I'm wearing a Hawaiian shirt because this is a Hawaiian show, and I wanted to get festive. And with that said, I have three awesome guests with me today. We have Josh Aker from Northland Controls, Jeremy Kerber from Convergent Technologies, and Lakendria Goldston from Securitas. They have great experience in the project management world in security, and we're going to have a great conversation with them today about that. So, with that said, I'd like to open the floor for some introductions. We'll start with Lakendria, then we'll go to Jeremy, then we'll go to Josh. Guys, just tell us a little brief introduction about yourself, where you're located, and what your current role entails.
Aloha, my name is Lakendria. I am the lead project manager with Securitas Security Services, and I'm currently located in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Cool. Jeremy?
My name is Jeremy Kerber. I'm a project team lead for Convergent Technologies, as you said. I'm based out of our Miramar 407 office, but I run the Treasure Coast area, so I am kind of a remote colleague.
Very cool. And Josh?
Hi, yeah, I'm Josh Aker. I'm based out of Newark, California, in the Bay Area. I've been with Northland Controls for about 8 years now, and I'm the performance engineering manager.
Very cool. Well, you three guests are the perfect candidates for this episode because I have a few different diverse topics that I want to touch on. So for anyone watching, it's definitely important you stay the whole time. But the first one I would like to touch on is something that I'm personally curious about, and I'm sure all of our viewers at home are as well. So I really want to talk about and hear all of your perspectives on project management amidst the pandemic. Starting from the initial kind of shock period of March, April, May, June of 2020, how it looked then, how you managed projects from a remote standpoint, how it looked in the months kind of to follow, where things started to open up. But it really depends on the state that you're in. And I'm glad we have someone from North Carolina, someone from Florida, someone from California, because we'll get three different perspectives. But talk to me really just about managing projects remotely. Like I said, it's something that I'm really curious about, and I would assume that our viewers are as well. So we'll start with Lakendria, we'll go to Jeremy, and then we'll go to Josh.
Sounds good. So the transition, of course, as you mentioned, it was an initial shock from working from home. Initially, I was full time in the office Monday through Friday. So for me, it was an initial transition, and also I'm a mom. So I've also had that transition to also do remote school with my children. So we initially, I would say with our projects, it's been great because I actually get to see more of my clients because they've had that same transition. So having Zoom meetings and actually being able to see them as I wasn't traveling to sites, it was exciting to actually have more visibility to our clients. So the communication's been great thus far. Initially, I thought it was going to be a little bit of a delay with trying to get people during the installation phases on projects, but things have actually been working smoothly, and we've utilized the resources that we currently have, whether it's video chat, Zoom meetings, Microsoft Teams, or also texting, calling, and things of that nature to make sure we stay on target.
Cool. Very interesting. Jeremy, how about yourself?
Well, as Lakendra said, it was definitely a shock in the beginning. Although working remotely was not something new to me because I am a remote colleague working in the Treasure Coast area in Florida. The experiences of other people working remotely integrating into the process definitely was. The things I noticed most were the personnel being limited to the site. We can only have so many guys per site because of the other construction workers had to match this as well. and then jobs just being delayed or postponed in general because you couldn't work in a hospital or so on and so forth. But the one thing I noticed most is that communication almost stepped up. It was amazing to see the amount of people communicating more than even beforehand.
That's a big one. I feel like just in general, with every facet of the industry, communication has improved greatly.
Absolutely.
Would you say those projects, whether it was in that initial period or even like September, October, November, even that period, like when there were some spikes nationwide, would you say that most of them have been completed or resumed by now?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, many of our projects we started back sometime middle of the year, and of course it was limited. Again, we had to manage how many people were allowed on site and such. But by now, all the projects that had been postponed during the pandemic had been completed. So
That's very reassuring, because I didn't know how the delays affected projects just in general. And Josh, how about yourself? How have you seen kind of the remote work as far as project management goes? Has it benefited? Do you think certain projects, working remote rather than being on site? What have you taken from these remote managements?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do have to say one thing that I really like about this group is that we have those that are in project management. I'm probably 2 degrees of separation away from active projects, but all of my engineers are collaborating with project managers, and I get a little bit of probably a wider view of what was going on within my company than a project manager might. So at the get-go, projects were being canceled, delayed. We were pulling technicians out because everything was getting locked down. Obviously, that puts a huge disruption in all of these different project workflows, and the customers coming back talking about timelines, but at the same time, the buildings are empty. So what do we do? As a security integrator, do we go back in under kind of like what was it called? It wasn't emergency personnel, but the necessary personnel going and completing construction jobs because the buildings are empty. Then we saw a shift from these active projects that were going on, and the customers would reallocate some of their budgets and funding to investing in different types of technologies. So from the project manager's perspective, they have this entire suite of projects, this entire project portfolio that is taking baby steps forward. But at the same time, the scope is changing because the customer wants different technologies in place. So just from the workflow and the scope of work constantly changing, there's this next level flexibility that's almost required just to keep up. And that's really coupled with all of the video and all of the online collaboration. Because if you have an engineer, a technician, and a project manager trying to meet, the only way to functionally do that is through video chat or a conference call. So I think this really forced everybody to leverage these technologies to collaborate more, which it's
Absolutely.
thing, but at the same time, it's kind of off the back of a disaster.
Absolutely. And I love how you said the flexibility. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways in general in the industry that we've learned over the past year and a couple months. As far as like different, softwares and different technologies go, for the people at home who are watching, who are interested in project management, are there any new kind of technologies or new softwares, just in general, from a management perspective that you found helpful? Or is it just, using the normal softwares and stuff that you've used in the past? But like you've all said, the level of communication being greater has just helped everything. We'll start with Lakendria. Sorry about that.
No worries. So I would say for us, it's been leveraging Smartsheet to increase visibility for projects for all of our different internal, I would say internal partners. as well as we've been utilizing Asana. That's been a good tool for us. And everyone that has something to do with each project, they've been able to go in and see where each project is and what stage they're in, whether it's procurement, if kickoff call has happened, if it's in the installation phase, or if it's in the closure, then they're aware. So it's been great because we've been able to increase that visibility.
Awesome, awesome. Jeremy, how about yourself?
Yeah, one of the tools we've been using with Convergent is a software that we developed called iTrack. It's something that we've had before the pandemic, but during the pandemic, it definitely got utilized a lot more. It's a project tracking tool that we can use with our technicians, our installation partners, and the customer has access to it. We can update projects as they're moving along. It's live, so you can access it from your phone or such. It's really helped to bridge, again, communication, bridge that gap. Whereas when we're not on site, we are still passing along information as fast as we can. So, no, it's been a wonderful tool.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. And Josh?
So I don't know that any specific tool has been introduced, but at the same time, it sounds like both Lakendria and Jeremy have had very similar experiences to myself, where the company's leveraging more with the programs that they have. It's kind of the typical do more with less. So we have these systems, and we're trying to leverage everything that we can out of them because we're just not in a position where we can buy something new.
Gotcha. And I asked that question because kind of one of the purposes of this show is to educate and inform our viewers at home, regardless of how long they've been in the industry, because everybody can learn something new at some point. And I'm going to kind of switch gears here and talk about something that is close to my heart as a part of CRI's certifications and trainings in the industry. So tell me about certifications in the industry related to project management that you have obtained and that have really benefited your career, and how so. And we'll start with Josh.
So right now, I do hold a CSCSPM. I thought the training was wonderful. The test was very textbook, but it shows you the certain processes that you need to go through. It's tough to say which certifications would truly help a project manager within security, right? I mean, obviously you have the PMP. I feel like I'm gonna take all of the certifications. But I mean, obviously you have the PMP, and that's a huge certification in any project management field. But depending on the technology you're leveraging, you could even look for more technical degrees or certifications. You can go the CompTIA route with A+, Network Plus, Security Plus. You can go for a CCNA from the Cisco side to get a better understanding of networks and how technology communicates with each other. A CISSP, that's a cybersecurity cert from ISC Squared, and that gives you more insight into just the data and cybersecurity that is necessary to really manage a company, to manage a group, to manage any sort of organization. So there's so many different certifications that you can get that are applicable to a security project manager, because you're either going to be increasing your competencies for project management, or you're going to increase your competencies just in the technology that's in the field.
That's a great point. Certifications are great for the specifics, but also just the overall industry and overall technology. And that helps someone, that's going to help someone become more well-rounded in their field, essentially. Jeremy, how about yourself? Any certifications that you've gotten over the years, or different trainings or educational seminars that have helped you?
Absolutely. Well, myself, I hold the CSPM as well, and I'm working towards my CAPM and PMP. As Joshua said, the PMP is kind of like the globally recognized. If you have a PMP, you generally know the project management world. In regards to our field, however, I do believe in getting certifications regarding like your field technicians, whether it's towards a Vigilon or AMAG. It helps to understand that so you can assist your field colleagues. Being educated with what they're working on makes it easier for them. So that's generally what I'm working on towards.
It's awesome. That's really awesome. And Lakendria, how about yourself?
I currently hold a degree in project management. That was actually my start into the project management world. After I got my degree, I started to continually take some seminars with Fred Pryor. I'm not sure if you've heard of them. We've done seminars with them for project management if you want to enhance your skills, as well as recently it was brought to my attention about SIA. I believe they have a 199 for members, but if you're a part of the security industry, it is free. I believe to have different trainings and certifications, if I'm not mistaken. And then next month, I'm actually going for the Access certification. So I am trying to build my security knowledge, continually build that, as well as any project management knowledge. But soon thereafter, the Access certification, I'm working on the PMP as well, which
That's
they
awesome.
both recognize.
One of the really great things about the security industry is, organizations like SIA offer incredible certifications, and they have such a high reputation. But just in general, the industry has all these different certifications that you can get to further develop your career. And like with SIA and with SIA Rise, we're really trying to help young professionals and just professionals in the industry develop their careers, and certifications and industry trainings and all these educational webinars and seminars. It could only help. It's putting fuel in your tank. So everybody who's watching, if you are an aspiring project manager, if you just want to get into the industry and are curious on how a roadmap would look on how to go from A to B in your career and ultimately move up the totem pole, check out all these industry certifications. You would be doing yourself a very, very big favor. And the people around
Jake,
you as well.
sorry, I would like to take just a little bit of a step back here, because it depends on what type of project manager you are, what type of projects you do have on your plate. If you're doing an integration project or an installation project, you might need that manufacturer certification to be able to just verify work is being done complete, verify everything is correct within a panel. But if you're a little bit, I should say, on the back end, then you're going to need to know architecture of these systems so that you can talk competently toward all of your customers and stakeholders.
That's a fantastic point. So if I think for the people watching this at home, if you are curious on what certifications are kind of best fit towards you, you can always reach out to SIA. They'll be more or as is. They'll be more than happy to walk you through what you need. You could talk to people at your company, talk to people who've been in the industry. Really use your resources because certifications are very valuable. So with that said, and like I said a little bit earlier, if you are an aspiring project manager and you're watching this, one of the other takeaways that I want you, the viewers, to kind of get from this episode is just general advice from our amazing guests today. So we'll start with Lakendria. What are some bits of advice that you would give to someone who is aspiring to be a project manager one day, or someone who, in the security world, or someone who's just starting out and is kind of unsure on, how the journey looks as a project manager and where to go from where they are?
Okay. I would say the best tips that I could give is one, always remain teachable and coachable because, of course, you're just starting out, so you're learning. So you definitely want to get to know your team members because you want to have trust in your team members. A lack of trust, it can definitely derail a project. especially once you give them responsibilities, just trust them to fulfill those responsibilities. And also, I know a lot of times when project managers come on board, they want to handle everything. However, you cannot handle everything, and the best thing is to delegate tasks out as needed.
Great, great. Those are all great bits of advice. I'm personally, I don't really, delve with project management, but just to me in general, that's great advice for someone just starting in the security industry. So, Jeremy, what about yourself? Do you have any, any different bits of advice for someone who's starting out in project management, or even someone who's been project management for a couple of years and is looking to kind of, go from A to B in their career?
Yeah, absolutely. So, in my experience, trial by fire seems to be how I learned the most. So, I'll talk about a pitfall, something to avoid. Unrealistic targets and deadlines. That's something I learned kind of the hard way in the beginning. You go into that meeting, you're talking to a customer, you want to make them happy. They're saying, "Hey, we can have this done by 2 weeks, right?" And you're like, "Yeah," before you even looked at the scope of work. So, sitting down, knowing your job, knowing the descriptions, knowing the scope, of course, and then working it through, and then giving a proper target and deadline generally helps.
Always, always. You got to be realistic. You have to be
don't
realistic.
paint yourself into a corner.
Definitely, definitely. And Josh, what about yourself? Any bits of advice, and also, pitfalls to avoid when you're starting out, or when you are, a couple years into that project manager role?
I would definitely say avoid assumptions. So I think it was Simon Sinek. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but he said, don't be afraid to be the dumb one in the room. Ask questions, ask lots of questions, because if you don't, there's going to be a slight assumption that you make that could alter the ultimate scope of work. If you don't feel comfortable with asking those questions, maybe talk to a peer, talk to a mentor, and just ask them to verify something for you. Reach out. The worst thing that could happen as a project manager that's looking to grow is not a mistake, but an oversight. Because I think those are very different. If you're not comfortable asking the customer to clarify, then you're going to have to get that information somehow. So definitely ask a lot of questions, and don't be afraid to look up.
Awesome, awesome. I mean, and I think all, from all three of you, all of those, bits of advice and kind of pitfalls to avoid, I think they're really applicable for a lot of different roles in the industry. So with that said, I'd like to conclude this episode by once again, thanking ThinkTech Hawaii and Security Matters and Andrew Lanning for allowing us, CRIs, to kind of host on a monthly basis. We've been having a blast. We've been having amazing discussions with even better people. And I think a clear example of that was today. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Lakendria. And thank you, Jeremy, for coming on. And as they say down in Hawaii, mahalo, and have a great week.